All right, week 10 is here. We're officially past the halfway point on this football season. I know it's been flying by, but there's plenty of room to catch up to your league mates, make some big trades, make some big plays. Maybe you even just make some pick 'em slips on Prediction Strike and make some money this weekend. But there's plenty of opportunity, so let's find the best way to succeed this weekend.
Yeah, a bunch of fun matchups this week, fresh off the trade deadline. So some new, fresh
Yeah, a couple new
usage
faces.
opportunities. Yeah.
Be interesting to see where they find themselves on these sheets. Like obviously right here, we're getting right into it with Jacoby Myers. Had a couple weeks off where he didn't play, played last week, was their second biggest target, but didn't do anything of note really. Had a couple catches, less than 40 yards, something like that. Nothing too great, but this should open up some room for Trey Tucker to get a few more targets. That little yellow bar is not anything crazy last time, but now going forward, I mean, someone's going to have to catch the ball other than Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is obviously going to have a insane target share, but Trey Tucker should still see a decent amount of work. And in a matchup this week tonight against the Broncos without Patrick Surtain, it's a decently favorable matchup. I think if you needed a guy for a week, he could do a job at a flex if you have guys on bye and things like that. I know I'm in a deeper league where I'm throwing him out there. I think he could be a boomer bust type of play if you need some upside. The Raiders should be trailing in this one, throwing the ball a ton. I think he's a decent little play. Brock obviously going into your lineup.
Yeah, I agree. And it's hopeful, I think, for Trey Tucker. I think it's a good pickup this week and like from a fantasy perspective, just because, in that week 7 where there was no Jacoby Myers, he ate up a ton of that first read percentage. So I think that's going to become a little bit more commonplace on this team with like the new look Raiders. So it's hopeful for Trey Tucker for sure. Michael Mayer will probably get a decent amount of looks. Yeah.
Sweet. Moving on to their counterpart tonight, the Denver Broncos. Courtland Sutton's always going to have a decent amount of work. I mean, you can trust that bar. It's pretty much been at the same level all season. He has a pretty high floor, and in a game like this against a bad secondary, he should have a ton of success. I think it's a good spot for him. I think Troy Franklin's got a lot of red zone work recently, which is nice to see. He's a guy you could throw in your flex this week for sure. And outside of that, I'm fine staying away from the rest of this passing offense. Arizona Cardinals, a fun little team now. Kyler basically out for the season now. It's been announced.
Wait, Grant, can we stop for a second?
Yeah.
Sorry, my girlfriend's just getting ready and leaving the house.
Moving on to the Arizona Cardinals, some fun updates coming out of Cardinals camp. Kyler Murray out 6 to 8 weeks, likely taking him out through the remainder of the season. And the offense as a whole has looked a lot better under Jacoby Brissett. Marvin Harrison's getting the ball a ton, as you can see from these past 2 weeks. Trey McBride is obviously super fantasy relevant in these games when Jacoby's playing. They've kind of experienced a little bit of a resurgence. I feel a lot better owning these guys with Jacoby at the helm, which is something I never thought I would say, but that's kind of the reality we're in right now. I feel great about throwing those two guys in my lineup as like pretty much alpha plays in their position. You guys fine still just leaving them be for now.
Yeah, it's like Jacoby has been absolutely slinging it. I think he's thrown for over I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure he's thrown for over 300 yards in all 3 of his last games. And he is just, absolutely hot, spreading the ball to all of his receivers. And Michael Wilson, I think he's probably going to end up getting more looks. Like he has gotten several receptions, albeit not the first read, like in these last 3 games. With Jacoby Brissett under the helm. Zay Jones he's still around. He was just like Tony Snelling all game last game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to see. I mean, those guys might be legit like good looks for like overs on receptions, receiving yards on PredictionStrike. I think maybe not fantasy assets quite yet, but
100% good pick 'em plays.
Yeah.
Falcons, Drake London's been fantastic since that bit of an early season started slow. But since then, he's been great the last few weeks. Kyle Pitts is always going to be kind of a red zone target, viable kind of streaming option at tight end. They play the Colts this week in Munich, which is kind of a fun little game there. Not sure how that's going to affect Kyle Pitts' standing in this offense, but Colts are a good team, obviously, so could be a passing game script for these lads. I don't know if Sauce Gardner is going to be joining the team in Berlin right now, but if he does, then obviously that could affect some things. But for now, I feel good about Drake London, maybe streaming some Kyle Pitts. Mooney's always going to be kind of like a pick 'em merchant, like we talked about. He'll have his big games. If you think this is one of them, then definitely get involved with that. But I'm not comfortable throwing him into my lineup.
Yeah, especially not for one of these international games. I don't think there's just like a bunch of weird factors at play that I feel like more often than not impact the passing game, especially like, these big passing plays that guys like Darnell Mooney or like a McLeod are dependent on to produce at all. But yeah, Drake London you're throwing in your lineup no matter what. Should have a bunch of receptions in Berlin. And then Pitts, yeah, just if you have him on your team, you're probably starting him this week. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on your context. If you have some guys off waivers or tight ends you like a Gadsden or something like that, then obviously you're not starting Pitts. But yeah,
Maybe like a
you can make
Mason
that decision.
Taylor or something this week.
Yeah.
Would even be better than that, but
yeah. Baltimore, how are the vibes in Baltimore right now, Jackson?
Vibes in Baltimore are okay, I think. I mean, we got rid of Jair, obviously, going up against a tough Vikings defense. Luckily, Lamar's back, though. They trashed the Dolphins last week. So that was a promising sign for them. Mark Andrews caught 2 touchdown passes, I believe, as well. So, yeah, I mean, Mark seems hot right now. The connection seems to be there between him and Lamar. And it's probably going to be a pass-heavy script, so I don't mind throwing Mark into your lineups. I think Zay should see his normal volume. He's obviously consistently the first read guy, even more so with Lamar Jackson at QB. So I'm very comfortable starting either of those guys. Might be like a tougher week for Derrick Henry, so they're going to rely on the passing attack a little bit more than they typically do, I think.
Agreed. I like Zay a lot this week. I think he's a fun play. Vikings definitely can be susceptible to some deep plays and things like that, and Zay is pretty equipped to handle that. So, like that play for sure. The Bills' offense has looked a lot better since they returned from that bye in Week 7. Beat the Chiefs last week, huge win. Dominated the Panthers the week before that. Feels like things are kind of figuring themselves out in Buffalo, which is nice to see. In terms of fantasy relevance, I feel really good about Dalton Kincaid at this point. He's sustained success for enough weeks now where I feel pretty good about throwing him into my lineup. He seems to be their like number one threat on those like 15 yards out from the goal line type of plays. He always seems to find himself open, and Josh Allen clearly trusts him. Shakir's a fine flex. Obviously, the volume's always going to be there. And yeah, they just spread the ball too much outside of those two. Nobody else I really care about throwing in my lineup.
Yeah, it should just be a super high scoring, or like a Bills should just absolutely trash the Dolphins ultimately. So it's like they're going to rely. It's going to be a big James Cook game, and that's probably
for sure
what it's going to be. Keon Coleman, no chance you're throwing him into your lineup. I don't think this week. Kincaid and Shakir, I'm fine with, but yeah, pretty much agree with your take there.
Panthers, in terms of this passing offense, it just hasn't had a ton of success. The ground games obviously looked elite, which we'll talk about later, but just Tet, nobody else for me. I don't think we really need to add much else on there. His ceiling is still pretty high. He gets that crazy target share. The end zone targets will come, and yeah, I still feel good throwing him in at the flex.
Yeah, you're not touching any of these other guys too inconsistent.
The Bears, look at this chart. This is about as spread out as we can find so far. Colson Loveland, huge bump last week, which is great to see. You can see out of the bye, they've really been making a concerted effort to get him the ball. They obviously use the number 10 overall pick on him, and so they want to make sure they're reaping some of the benefits or kind of seeing what they have in him, which has been nice to see. Had a gigantic week last week, and I don't know if you're instantly just kind of throwing him in your lineup as a starter now. But you feel pretty good. I think if you need a tight end, if you have Jake Ferguson on bye or something like that, you could totally throw Loveland into your lineup. I know a lot of you probably want to see him do it one more time, which is totally understandable. Rome has been very bizarre. You're still probably throwing him into your lineup if you have him. Same with DJ Moore in the flex. DJ Moore has been significantly better than Rome these last few weeks, which was definitely not the case early on in the season. So Rome hopefully has a bit of a bounce back against this Giants secondary. 0 spot last week in a super high scoring game, which is just wild to see. But you're still throwing in your lineup. DJ Moore, feel good in the flex, and that's about it.
Yeah. I wouldn't worry too much about Odunze. He only got 3 targets in that flop of a game, which was super weird, but I don't think that's going to be like a consistent thing at all, considering that early success between Caleb and Odunze. So I think this week is honestly even like a good buy low spot on Odunze, or at least maybe like, over a half touchdown bets, stuff like that, just because the Giants have allowed so many touchdowns to opposing wide receivers this season, and they allow a ton of fantasy points. 8 touchdowns allowed to wide receivers. So I think this is a fun bounce back opportunity here for Odunze.
I like it.
Oh, and Olamide, dude. I feel like Olamide is worth the pickup in certain leagues. Like
it could be I think he's kind of a pick'em guy. Like I don't know what kind of ceiling he really has. I don't know if you're going to be feeling great throwing him into your lineup, but he's worth keeping an eye on, or maybe you get involved with some pick'em slips. The Seahawks obviously made a decent trade, brought in Rashid Shaheed, who should add kind of a new element to this offense, should be a huge deep play threat. Also can be kind of a gadget guy. You get him the ball around the line of scrimmage and let him go. Some quick routes, let him use his athleticism to turn those into bigger plays. But I think that will kind of cut out of Cooper Kupp and Torrey Horton's roles a little bit. Kupp's obviously been out for a little bit. Horton scored 2 touchdowns on Sunday Night Football last week, which was great to see. But I think if Shaheed suits up, I don't feel comfortable starting Horton as a flex. Same with Cooper Kupp. JSN is still going to be JSN. I'm not worried about his role getting taken at all. I think he's proved himself as a guy that can get open pretty much whenever. So I feel great about throwing him in. Obviously, he's a top 5 receiver. And Shaheed, I think you should pick him up just to see. You never know what his role is going to look like in this offense. I don't think it's going to be like super consistent targets and things like that. But hey, pick him up. Maybe he has a huge week this week, and then you could trade off him, or you could see what you do from there. But he's worth an ad, obviously.
Yeah, I also like what I've seen from this AJ Barner, Sam Darnold connection. I feel like Barner is, worth the start, especially in a week or in a matchup against the Cardinals. Tight ends have been performing pretty well against them all season, so I expect some, this Barner connection to keep growing with Darnold. I like the way it's looking.
For sure. Even scored a rushing touchdown last week.
Yeah.
The Niners. It'll be interesting to see what practice reports are looking like today after their Thursday practice. As of right now, Pearsall still questionable. I think Brock Purdy, same boat. I think he might officially be returning, but will be nice to see if Ricky Pearsall can get back on the field. He was great early on in the season, so they've really been missing that. If he plays, I'm starting him for sure, and probably not starting Juwan, and definitely not starting Kendrick Bourne. But if he does not play, Jawan Jennings is going into my lineup, and George Kittle obviously will be going to my lineup in any scenario. But Kendrick Bourne, to me, even if Ricky doesn't play, I think since Kittle's been back, he's just kind of been a non-factor. You see that target share go down post Kittle return. So, that's kind of my read on things.
Yeah, no, I think that was pretty sharp. Like Jawan, you're starting conditionally if Ricky does not come back. Otherwise, Ricky and Kittle are the starts. You're good, not really worrying about these other guys. They're playing the Rams, whose secondary isn't amazing, but also isn't like, bad enough to be thinking about like a Kendrick Bourne splash play or something like that. So,
yeah, no, exactly. Commanders. I don't know that I need to throw any of these guys into my lineup, really. I mean, Terry McLaurin's going to be out again, likely. Deebo Samuel, I guess you're obviously throwing in as a flex that you feel really good about. He's been good in those Mariota games. But with Jaden Daniels out for the season, I think just the ceiling on this offense and the amount of times they're going to score has gone down drastically. So you obviously don't feel as good if you have one of these pass catchers. Zach Ertz can do a job at the tight end spot for sure, but definitely some sad news, not great vibes coming out of Washington, given that news. But still probably good news for Deebo, I guess, long term. It seems like him and Mariota have a decent little thing going, but outside of that, I'm fine staying off of these guys.
Yeah, I'd pretty much agree. I think someone that's not listed here in the receiving realm that deserves a shout with Mariota coming back is McNichols, just because in that last Mariota start against the Chiefs, he did haul in 5 receptions, 64 yards. So I think depending on what that line looks like right now, it might be a really fun spot to get in early on the McNichols receiving yards or just receiving props in general.
Check downs.
Yeah, exactly.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mike Evans still done, likely for the year, obviously. Seems like Chris Godwin is slowly working his way back, which is nice to see. Patriots defense is obviously very good, so it's not the greatest matchup in the world. Christian Gonzalez questionable for this game. That's super important to keep your eye on as this gets closer. So definitely monitor that if you have one of these pass catchers. Chris Godwin questionable right now. Bucky Irving questionable. Keep an eye on those as well. I think Godwin's a fun start if he's playing for sure. Definitely the guy that I think Baker still trusts the most. But Igbuka's obviously going into your lineup. I think Tez Johnson's a fine start if Chris Godwin doesn't play. If Chris Godwin does play, I'm probably leaving Tez on the bench for now, but that's your choice to make. I think Tez is always liable for those big plays, but Emeka is going in your lineup in any situation. Whoever's playing, regardless, he's going in.
I think Cade Otton is also kind of a smash this week because the Patriots are just so bad against tight ends and all the injuries on the Buccaneers side. He should be, and Otton like is Baker's favorite target when those guys are out typically. So I think it'll be a good week.
Yeah, it's a good take. Jets, I mean, just horrendous vibes. Going up against the Browns, obviously a great defense over there. So not even a good matchup that you really want. And half the guys on this team want to be traded right now. The other half of their friends actually did get traded. So it's just kind of a weird one here. Garrett Wilson, questionable to return. He's playing for you in any scenario. Obviously, he's been great in those weeks when he has played. You can see that first read percentage. It's insane, especially under Justin Fields. It seems like Fields is safety blankets. Garrett Wilson, just throw it up there. So Garrett Wilson's going in. Mason Taylor, I think you feel decent about, especially if Garrett doesn't play. If Garrett does play, I'm probably staying off of him. I just think the passing volume in this game is not going to be good. I think Fields is going to be very overwhelmed. I think you could easily see a game where he finishes with like 115 passing yards and you're regretting starting your pass catchers. But that's just my read on this one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's the Mason Taylor start is kind of a fun look if Garrett doesn't play, but otherwise, like, this team is just gross. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. On to the other side of New York. Vibes are definitely higher for the Giants than they are the Jets right now. Theo Johnson has scored a touchdown in a couple of weeks. He's been pretty good in those games when Daniel Bellinger has not played. So keep an eye on that one. That's a fun one to monitor. Other than that, Wandale's going into your lineup every single week. If you need a guy with a decent floor to fill a flex spot, Darius Slayton's worth an ad, or if he's on your bench, chuck him in there. But outside of that, I don't need to get involved with anyone else.
Yeah, I'm big on the receiving core. Like, honestly, both Wandale and Slayton this week, just against this Bears defense, and Slayton coming off like the season highs across the board with Jackson Dart last week. So I think that's a very fun look for like touchdown scorers and stuff.
Yeah, the Bears defense obviously isn't spectacular, so
yeah,
I can see it. Saints, will be interesting to see who takes that target share. Obviously, this has been split between three people all season. Rashid Shaheed now out of there, and that's a pretty huge chunk of this chart, especially recently. You see last week, it's pretty insane. Obviously, Olave should get even more work, which is great if you're an Olave owner. I think he's in a pretty good spot, super high floor with just the sheer amount of targets he receives. Jawan Johnson, had kind of fallen off for a couple weeks after that great start. I think he's worth a re-pickup or a guy to monitor now. Probably the next most confident pass catcher they have here, so he's going to get some extra work there. And then outside of that, I think you just kind of need to see it for a week, just to see what that receiver room is going to look like. You have some guys like Brandon Cooks, Devon Vele, who they traded for this year, Mason Tipton, just kind of some rogue names that are out there that could get some work. So if you want to get like sharp and pick up one of these guys before their first big week, then maybe you pick up Devon Vele or something like that. But I don't know if you want to get too cute with it.
Yeah, I'd consider, like, considering how fringe Shaheed was to begin with, I doubt like Devon Vele or Brandon Cooks are going to be fantasy relevant for the rest of this season. But who do you think Vele between those two is like? Or would you put your money on that being the guy that sees like?
I think so, just because they traded for him this season. I feel like it's worth like seeing what you have in a guy. Like Brandon Cooks is what he is. Like I don't think the Saints are trying to win games right now. It's kind of just a weird uh situation. I don't think I like really need to uh pick up Brandon Cooks. I think Vele is a guy who like could pop more than Brandon Cooks could, I guess, at this situation.
Makes sense. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. I feel like Jawan's going to get a bunch more volume, like beginning of a season volume, just to kick things
Yeah.
off with this new look.
Yeah. Agreed. Vikings, give me Jefferson and Jordan Addison for sure. Just based on kind of the matchup here against Baltimore, should be a pretty high scoring game. Baltimore's defense has looked better the last couple weeks, but it's still not a great unit. So I feel good about getting those guys into my lineup. TJ Hawkinson just doesn't strike a ton of confidence into me. He's not the player that he was pre-injury. I don't feel great about throwing him into my lineup right now. Obviously, he could catch a touchdown and that could change your mind, but I just don't love the player. But Jordan Addison and Jefferson obviously going into our lineups. Addison feels like a really fun little flex play, maybe a pick 'em player as well.
Yeah, totally. I think the only thing I would add would be that like it's probably if you have McCarthy, it's a decent week to throw him in the lineup
For
against this
sure.
Ravens defense, who has allowed like so many passing yards. It feels like since their bye, but
Big
he
time.
looked okay last week. They got an early lead, which in part was why he ended up throwing for so few yards. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he should be good this week.
Yeah, he played well.
Mm-hmm.
Pats taking on the Buccaneers, like we talked about. Buccaneers definitely capable of putting up some points if they can return to the form they had a couple weeks ago. So could be a fun matchup for some pass catchers if the Buccaneers can keep up the pace. Diggs is pretty much a lock for 10 points a week. So feel good about throwing him into the flex. Keyshawn Boutte out injured right now. So that should be even more work for Stephon Diggs and even potentially Demario Douglas, I guess. Demario Douglas primarily working out of the slot, so not the same profile of wide receiver, but the targets are going to have to go somewhere. And Keyshawn Boutte, while he doesn't get a ton of them, he gets a lot of meaningful targets, a lot of like deep down play or downfield plays, end zone targets, things like that. So Diggs, maybe Mac Hollins is the guy that gets those. He's kind of a similar profile, but it feels gross even thinking about that
Kyle
right now. But
Williams.
maybe it's Kyle Williams season. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Haven't really seen any of him so far this year, but yeah, give me Diggs, maybe Hunter Henry with Butte out.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much there with you. I do like the talent profile of Kyle Williams, so I feel like I hope he gets that usage bump. But
Yeah, I
I
think if they were a bad team right now, they would easily be putting Kyle Williams into the lineup just
yeah,
because they drafted him, and it's like you got to see what you have with a guy. But with them sitting at 7-2, it feels like they might trust Mac Hollins more now. He's more experienced and things like
yeah,
that. So maybe you just don't want to get the young guy involved right now, but we'll see.
facts.
Your Dolphins, how are we feeling?
Who are the Dolphins playing this week again?
They play the Bills.
Well, we're feeling really confident about that game. We got we got trashed last week by the Ravens, which was was expected by pretty much everybody. Yeah, I mean, I would just expect like the way we're looking for the passes to get more and more dispersed. Darren Waller's coming back this week, so that could be a fun option. He was awesome those 2 weeks where he was active for the Dolphins. He scored in both, so I think that is pretty much the only look I'm going for this week with the Dolphins. Like, I think we're gonna
Nice.
get crushed. What about
I'm
you?
still throwing Waddle into your
Yeah,
lineup.
Waddle
I feel
too,
good.
but
I mean, like even regardless of game script, regardless of matchup, he's just going to get the targets and
yeah.
always potential for a deep play. But yeah, I don't need anyone else for sure. Rams, it'll be interesting to monitor Puka Nakua's injury as this one gets closer. I think as of right now, I would probably lean towards him playing just based off of the information we have. We won't get their practice report until later today. Practicing on the West Coast, obviously, so we'll see how that comes out. But hasn't practiced yet this week. Dealing with like a rib or chest injury. It's a little bit vague as of right now, but if he plays, you're obviously Puka Nakua is going into your lineup. I think Devontae Adams is going into your lineup regardless, but if Puka doesn't play, Devontae Adams is like a top 5 receiver this week. So just keep an eye on that. But they're both going in your lineup regardless. I think Jordan Whittington is a guy you can monitor if Puka misses games. You can see that little yellow bump on the chart in those games that Puka missed in week 6 and 7. So yeah, think about that. But just monitor the injury and you'll know what to do from there.
Yeah, I pretty much don't have anything to add for the Rams. Solid.
The Jags, you're throwing Jacoby Myers into the mix with this team. I think that's mostly bad for like Parker Washington, probably. A lot of intermediate routes, a lot of working in the slot and things like that. Parker Washington had a really good week last week, so it's kind of a shame, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of role Jacoby Myers has right away. I don't know if he's going to play this week, but we'll see. BTJ, if he plays, I mean, you're kind of stuck throwing him in your lineup. It feels gross. It's been gross, but kind of got to just keep rolling him out and hopefully something changes. Travis Hunter likely done for the year. So that fun week we had in week 7, we're just not going to get to see what that translates to after that. But yeah, that's about it, I think.
Yeah, I honestly think, I mean, despite Jacoby being around, I think it could be a fun week for those alternate pass catchers like Parker Washington and De'Ami Brown. And even I mean, we'll talk about this later, but Baishal Tutin, like they're going up against the Texans who have a pretty strong run D. They're going to need to get Jacoby Myers like up to speed with the organization. So I mean, De'Ami in particular saw 7 targets last week, so he could be a fun little sleeper pick while they're still like getting the Jacoby Myers version of this Jaguars team together. There's no Travis Hunter, obviously no BTJ, no Strange, so
Yeah, it's fair. Is BTJ officially out?
I believe. Well, no, I don't think he is, but he's
I
definitely
mean, he's been kind of in and out of
hurt.
injuries.
Yeah,
He hasn't been playing well, so yeah, I think that's valid. The Texans, they're playing the Texans this week. Should be a pretty gross game all around. I think I literally don't want a single player in this game if Davis Mills plays. I mean, I guess like Nico, you're probably
yeah.
still throwing him in there, but like I don't know. I don't have a ton of confidence in Nico Collins. He hasn't been great all year, even with CJ Stroud, and now you throw in Davis Mills in there. It just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in your lineup right now. But if CJ Stroud does play, I think it's a decent matchup for Dalton Schultz potentially. Jags not fantastic against tight ends as we saw last week. Brock Bowers at 133 touchdowns, 11 catches. So maybe you get involved with Dalton Schultz, but this is kind of only contingent on CJ Stroud playing for me.
I'm kind of cool against the Jaguars defense, even though it's Davis Mills. Personally.
Yeah, their secondary isn't bad. The secondary, I mean, like against wide receivers, the Jags have done a pretty good job most of this year.
Didn't they give up like 150 yards to Bowers last week though, or some shit like that?
Yeah, I mean, against tight ends, I think like their linebacker core is not great. I think their corners are pretty good. Like against receivers,
Yeah.
it's not like a great matchup. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think you can get involved with Schultz for sure. That could be a fun one, even if Davis Mills plays. I feel like a lot of those guys just kind of look at tight ends a lot.
Yeah, look for the big guy.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Colts in Berlin, like we talked about, playing the Falcons. I mean, Pittman's going in your lineup every week. I mean, I think just with the amount of pass catchers they have, he's probably like a wide receiver 2 or a flex. That kind of depth has capped him from being like a true wide receiver 1, I think. Pierce and Josh Downs are obviously always going to have their big plays and their big weeks, but it's kind of a tough game to get involved with. I don't think like those guys are really consistent enough to throw into your lineup, and especially against the Falcons secondary, who's actually really good. 2 great safeties, a great corner. It's just not a fantastic matchup for those secondary guys. Tyler Warren feels like he needs a bounce back week here. Was getting a ton of praise early on in the season, and he's still been good, but he just hasn't really been given those targets like he was early on, and his box score and stats will reflect that accordingly. So maybe this is a matchup for him when the receivers are a little bit bogged down in a tougher matchup.
Wasn't I Daniel Jones? This is his second international game of the season, right?
I think it's their first. I don't know if they
Oh,
would travel back out there again. I'm not sure.
okay. Yeah, you're right because who was it that stayed out there for a week?
Vikings.
Yeah, it was the Vikings, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Daniel Jones heading out east. I pretty much agree with everything you said. I think it's going to be kind of a showcase game for like the connection between him and Tyler Warren. I think, setting like this, you can probably expect that Alec Pierce production to sort of to go down a little bit, at least for 1 week. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much what I would add to that.
I'm with you.
DJ, for some reason, I just have a feeling is going to put on a show.
Yeah, bad week last week, a little bounce back.
Yeah.
Shows everyone it wasn't a fluke. The Detroit Lions, Amon-Ra, alpha play, get him in your lineup every week. Sam Laporta has been great the last few weeks. Always capable of those huge pop weeks. I think you're throwing him back into your lineup all day again against the Commanders defense. They just got absolutely shredded by the Seahawks, so you feel good if you have a pass catcher in this one. Jameson Williams was a little bit more involved last week. He had a big play and a touchdown. It was nice to see. I know in the bye there were a lot of interview clips and things about the Lions coaching staff talking about needing to get Jameson Williams more involved. They just paid him in the offseason, and he was pretty much a non-factor early on in this season. I mean, there were a couple games where he was successful, but a lot of the time he was just kind of left running routes without any targets. So hopefully that uptick continues and they continue to find ways to get him involved because it's pretty electric when you can.
Yeah, it's a good game to do it too against the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
Should be
100%.
The
Browns pass catchers. Yeah, do you have anyone you love in this one?
No, take it on the Jets. I mean,
I think it's kind of a fun matchup. I think the Jets might just be bad vibes team of the year. I like the Browns in this game in general. A lot of rumors about Njoku getting traded, which would have been fantastic for Fannin, but that didn't happen. So you're still kind of split there. I would still be throwing Fannin into my lineup, same with Njoku, but kind of only if you're desperate for a tight end, I guess. Jerry Jeudy, don't feel great about. I think this one's going to be dominant on the ground. I think the Browns will have like 250 rushing yards in this one. What about you?
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't even think that the Jets are just falling apart for better or worse as far as this year's team goes. So it's like, I think the Browns, all they need to do is pound the ball through Quinshawn, and then they should be perfectly fine. And that's why maybe we see a good game from either Njoku or Fannin too, but I wouldn't trust the receivers too much this game, I don't think.
100%. Pittsburgh on to Sunday Night Football. DK, get him in. These tight ends are just tough to predict. It's a losing battle every time. I think like if there was ever situations where one or two of them missed, then the other guys would be like must play. But every time one of them seems like they're dead, they just kind of rise up from the grave and trot themselves out there and play. Right now, Darnell Washington is questionable, hasn't practiced this week, but knowing this team, he'll probably suit up and he'll probably catch a touchdown, and you will have started Jonnu Smith. So I think you're just going to drive yourself crazy trying to get cute and predict which one of these guys is going to play. So for now, I just throw DK in and just be simple.
I do think someone like the Muth though could be fun for like just random like long shot stuff this week for sure.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But I agree.
I think like you can
reliable.
get pick 'em slips in with these guys for sure if you think one of them has an edge or whatever. But just like the floor is pretty low when they're not like a lead target. Yeah.
It's interesting. CA3's first read has been relatively so high these last 2 weeks.
I know. I don't think he's really done much of anything with the role either. So
yeah,
it's a weird one.
Something to watch. Yeah.
Charges. Rondé Gadsden going into your lineup. Been a great tight end the last few weeks, and deservedly will be a pretty solidified starter going forward for you in your lineup. Quentin Johnston did score a touchdown last week, I believe, but his role's kind of been declining a little bit as of late, just based on I think Rondé Gadsden's ascendant. Some of those targets that were going to QJ downfield are now going to the tight end. QJ will still always have a role, but you feel less good about him as you did than you did through 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's also like Steelers defense versus Titans D. I mean, Titans not horrible, but Steelers definitely another challenge.
For sure. Ladd, you're getting him in your lineup. He's had a bit of a resurgence last few weeks. He's been better for sure. So you're just going to keep riding it out and throwing him out there. Keenan, little bit lackluster last week. I think he had like 5 fantasy points and half point, but the target share is still enough. You're not just going to use that 1 week where he had his lowest share as your like only reference point here. So still feel decent about giving Keenan some flex starts for sure. Honestly, a fun offense. I think this is a good matchup. Steelers defense is good, but it's worse than pretty much every past Steelers defense. So you still feel solid throwing these guys out there. I think this matchup could be pretty fun.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, QJ did kind of get a big first read last week. Maybe that could end up being a weird play this week, but
yeah, it's a little shaky, but I think you feel decent if he's your flex this week.
Yeah.
Philly need to get some AJ Brown news in order to fully have confidence. But as of right now, if AJ Brown doesn't play, Devontae Smith is about as good of a matchup as you can find in the NFL this week. Packers run D is elite, and that's kind of where the Eagles try to beat you a lot of the time. So they're going to have to go through the air here a little bit, and Devontae feels like the guy best equipped for that. Dallas Goedert, obviously, as well, has been a touchdown magnet in the red zone. So you feel good throwing him in as your tight end. I believe he's like the tight end 2 or 3 right now, which is insane. But yeah, he's obviously going into your lineup. Devontae Smith obviously going in. And then if AJ does play, I think I would still rather start Devontae Smith than AJ, but AJ Brown becomes a fun flex option potentially too. Just a little weary based on the time off, but we'll see.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think DT and Dallas are just must starts this week against this Packers defense, and then AJ throw him in your flex fee plays, and you're still putting priority on DT and Dallas even if AJ does play.
Agreed. Packers, just brutal news with Tucker Kraft and the ACL. That was like Mr. Reliable with this team. He was the guy you could count on to be successful in this offense, in this passing offense. After that injury, I don't even know. I mean, like Luke Musgrave is a guy worth taking a shot on. I think a lot of that target share probably just goes elsewhere to these other receivers, honestly. I don't feel like fantastic about Musgrave. We've seen him as the lead tight end in this offense before, and it's not like anything spectacular. So I think you're throwing Dobbs out there. He feels like the closest kind of guy to Tucker Kraft in terms of like profile of intermediate routes and a guy that Jordan Love clearly trusts in big moments. And you can see that reflects in this first read percentage. It went up last week when Tucker Kraft missed. So everyone else, you're just going to drive yourself crazy. It's kind of like the Steelers tight end situation with these receivers. There's just too many guys that do some similar things and a variety of different things. You're just like, I mean, if you want to dive deep in the weeds and find that guy who's best on corner routes is can beat the Eagles secondary and stuff like that. I mean, that could be fun for pick'em slips, but I just think you're gonna drive yourself insane.
I think it could, honestly, I don't know what you think, but I think it could be a fun week for Christian Watson, who, albeit over a minuscule sample size, has looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think everybody's going to get some more targets with the injury. Christian Watson's just like about as volatile as you can find. Like he could have 7 for 180 and 2 touchdowns, or he could have like 1 target for 0.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like he's going to look good this week. What do you think about Luke Musgrave?
Yeah, I mean, I think like he's worth an ad in fantasy for sure. I think a lot of people overspent fab on him just because he's like the tight end in this offense. They think it's just kind of a 1-for-1 replacement, but it's not. I think we've seen Musgrave as the lead tight end in this offense before, and we've had high hopes, and it just hasn't really looked great. So I'm open-minded. If he's great this week, then I'll have a different opinion next week. But for now, I'm kind of holding off on like starting Musgrave for now.
Yeah, I heard.
But that's going to do it for this segment. We'll move right onward into some running backs here. We'll kind of speed through this. We have a little tier list to show you some guys you should be starting this week, kind of how we rank the running backs going forward. So take a look at that as we jump right in. Jackson, you can see this?
Yep.
Aaron Jones going up against the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens' run D hasn't been very good, but I think the Ravens are playing from ahead in this one.
Jones also hasn't been very good.
Yeah, I think he's a solid flex for me. I think in a game where they could be down a decent amount and throwing the ball, he's obviously the running back that's going to get a lot of those dump offs from JJ McCarthy. So I feel okay about it.
Cool. I'm with you there. HN, you're throwing him in your lineup despite playing the Bills. He's just...
Yeah, I mean, he like will never not score 13 points. So
yeah.
You feel good about this. We'll see how many guys we end up having in that elite category, but for now, I'm going to chuck him here, I think. Bijan, what do you think about Bijan?
Bijan, I don't know about this week for Bijan, honestly. Like, I would say if you have him, probably still a must start, but I'm putting him sort of towards like back half of the must starts, I think.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, we'll throw him here. I think his upside is pretty crazy regardless. Like, he's always going to be a must-start player. I think the Colts' run D has definitely been solid, and it's kind of an interesting game, gross game in Berlin. Maybe the passing game just doesn't click, and you're just pounding the rock with Bijan, and he has some success.
Yeah, I think he's only projected to get like 14, like the line's like 14 carries or something,
okay,
which is wild.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I'd probably have HN over him, but we'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
HN might end up going up here, and then you leave Bijan here.
Yeah.
Did you have anything you wanted to say about Bishal too?
Oh, yeah. I just think it could be a fun week, kind of, somewhat close to this bye with all these injuries on the Jaguars and like moving pieces for him to make a bit of a bigger impact than he typically does, because I think he's someone they want to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like,
here, it's
yeah, exactly. Like fantasy wise, I don't know, but I do think it's like, he might have a great game here. Fun pick 'em. I like that.
Whoa, wait, how did it? Whatever. Whoa.
Pick 'em fun play.
Whatever, you get the vibe.
Yeah.
Fun guy to throw in some pick 'em slips. I think he gets involved in the passing game a little bit, like Jackson said. So we'll leave him there. We have Breece Hall, bad matchup against the Broncos. I think he's probably in that solid flex category, maybe ahead of Aaron Jones, but not a great matchup, not great vibes from the Breece Hall camp in general, just kind of him wanting to get traded and things of that sort. Bucky Irving seems like he's going to be back. I think he's must start if he's back, just based on the kind of player he is. You've been waiting on him to return for so long. Get him into your lineup. Trending towards playing as of right now, it seems. So that's great news. I feel good about the start. Patriots run D is definitely a good unit, but Bucky's capable of breaking long passing plays, especially with all these targets out. I think he'll get involved somewhere or another.
Yeah.
Chuba dead. Just like bad vibes going around. I think Rico Dowdle is just the man going forward. I'm not sure he's actually down here. We'll just talk about Rico Dowdle right away, but he's going to go in this must start category. Great matchup against the Saints. He might even be in elite, honestly, but just based on sheer volume, out-touched Chuba 27-7 last week. Seems like there's no reason to change that after you beat the Packers and you scored 2 rushing touchdowns. So feel really good about Rico Dowdle, especially against the Saints defense.
Yeah, I agree.
DeAndre Swift, is he 100% playing? He missed last week.
Yeah.
I think it's trending towards him possibly playing. He's questionable. We'll do this as if he's playing. If he's playing solid flex option, I don't think Monungai is going to like displace his role just based off of that 1 week. So I'm still flexing him for sure. Monty, decent matchup, I guess. Yeah. I think he could be a solid little flex. Maybe mid flex is better for him, but he's always viable to score a touchdown. And when he scores a touchdown, he's a great play. So.
Yeah, I feel like most managers who have a Monty this week are probably ending up flexing him.
Agreed.
Cool.
D-Hen, what do you think about D-Hen?
I mean, I think with Lamar back and everything going up against, I mean, it's a tough run D, but I still think he'll get the volume. Like, must start maybe on the, I like that.
Lower side of must start. Travis Etienne, solid little flex, I think. Yeah.
Maybe above Swift and right there.
That's fair. Yeah. I like that. Jameer going up here. We'll have to start figuring out who's going up in this top category, but let's just throw Rico Dowdle in there for now for fun.
Yeah.
Jameer, good matchup against the Commanders, like we talked about with Monty. Hasn't been like as electric as last year, I guess. At least in some of those bigger games. He's had a lot of huge run plays in like he did in that Monday night game against the Buccaneers last week. He wasn't fantastic, but still an elite player. He's going in your lineup every single week. Garendo, Pacheco, don't need. Connor, dead. I think James Cook is in this elite category for sure against the Dolphins. Talk about that run D for a sec.
It's atrocious. Can't stop anything. So, and the Bills are just going to run up 1 million points in the first quarter. So they're just going to run the ball the entire game. So, it should just be a huge James Cook smash week.
Completely agree. I believe this is Javonte Williams.
That is, yeah.
They're on bye, so we don't need to talk about it, but he's been great. Jalen Warren, I think mid flex feels good. Maybe solid flex. We'll put him above Monty, but this tier somewhere around here feels good. Yeah. Scored a touchdown last week. Fun volume. Clearly displaced Kenneth Gainwell in that role. So you feel solid.
Yeah.
Ashton Genty, I think he's like probably here teetering between. I think he's probably a solid flex, but just not the guy you thought you were getting involved with this year for sure. But hopefully the run scheme and run blocking can pick it up a little bit. You can see a little bit more life from him. Jordan Mason, I think bench. Mm-hmm. It's probably just realistic right now. Josh Jacobs against the Eagles, definitely a good defense. You're still starting him, but I don't think it's quite the play that it could be against a bad defense. He hasn't really been involved in pass catching scenarios much this year, which is disappointing. But still gets enough volume, scores touchdowns. He's going to be in that category. JT, just chuck him up there.
Yep, the GOAT.
Down week last week. It feels like it's only due for a gigantic one this week. Feels like the case. Going up against the Falcons in Berlin. Kind of a gross game. Passing game can be gross, like we talked about earlier on in the video. So you go to the guy you can trust with Jonathan Taylor. Judkins, I think I'll put him like, what do you think about here?
I like it.
I mean, doesn't get the passing game work, which if he did, he would be in that elite tier for sure this week. Fantastic matchup. His line is all the way up at like 85 rushing yards, which is crazy. Should be set up for a giant week. And I love the play all around. I think he's just kind of lacking a little bit of that like elite extra skill that would put him into that elite category. Obviously, all these guys above him either get ridiculous volume and are involved in passing scenarios and things like that. So K9, they're playing the Cardinals. Not a bad matchup. Javonte had a good game against them on Monday night. I think like he's going to be ahead of Sharp, but he's probably like here. And then if we have Charbonnet, he's probably like the end of this or something. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, we'll put him end of this for now. I like Kenneth over Sharp, but it's kind of marginal just based off of kind of the way things have fallen this year. It's been pretty disgusting to pick. So Alvin Kamara. Do you think we see Alvin Kamara get more involved in the passing game now that they trade Shaheed? They trade some of these guys.
I think that's a reasonable.
He be the guy that gets
reasonable assumption to make. I think it should be like you can expect at least like a regular Alvin Kamara week, if not better.
Yeah,
against this Panthers defense.
I'm gonna chuck him in this flex category. He has been bad this year, but this feels like a spot where he could have a little bit of a breakout and slowly work his way up this list as the season goes on. Kyren against the Niners is going to be must start, probably right around here somewhere.
Yeah.
And then CMC is going to be in that elite category for sure. I think that Kyren should have a pretty favorable matchup. Niners projected to lose this one by a decent little margin, so I think you could see a lot of Kyren on the ground and maybe even the passing game if Puka doesn't play.
I would even put Kyren ahead of Bucky with him just coming back for the first time.
That's valid.
Yeah,
very valid.
Kareem Hunt.
They're on bye.
They have bye.
Najee dead. Amarion injured. Rashad White. I think fun little pick 'em play.
Yeah.
Throw him in that category. I think with Bucky coming back, a lot of people might be on the Bucky props. I think he might not be as ready to go as advertised. Maybe Rashad White is still involved in passing games. Could also use him as a wide receiver if Chris Godwin doesn't play. So fun pick 'em play. I think for him to get some receptions in this one. That would be my my pick.
I like that.
Ramondre still likely out. I think if he does play, he would go in this category. He has been their like most reliable running back when he's played. He's had some fumble issues and stuff, but if he plays, it's a fun matchup. I think you're throwing him in your lineup as a decent little flex option. If he doesn't play, I think Travion Henderson becomes here.
Yeah.
Like I think.
Do we have Terrell Jennings in here as well?
I don't think so.
Because that's like fun pick and play vibes, I feel like, too.
For sure.
Yeah.
We'll placeholder him in right there. Cool. I think if Ramondre and Travion play, I would do something like this. If Ramondre doesn't play, Travion goes here, something like
that. Yeah.
But we'll go with the upside here, and we'll go something like this. I think Saquon. I mean, I don't know. The Packers' run D is really good. I think he's
pretty midweek for Saquon.
I think it'd be like right there.
Yeah.
That look fair.
I totally
It's weird
agree.
not having him higher up, but I think that it's just kind of a gross matchup, and he hasn't had the greatest of seasons. That's just kind of the reality of the situation.
We're also, I feel like we're low-key getting to that point of the season where random games you see like the big name running backs just like have like 12 carries out of nowhere. For
sure. Kind of load managing.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Arizona running backs? We'll just use Trey Benson as like a placeholder for all of them.
Yeah, so Michael Carter's back on the roster. Bam Knight didn't have an amazing game at all against the Cowboys.
DeMercado ran the ball well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like if you picked up one of these guys because you have guys on bye and stuff, like they're going to be your flex option. I don't think they're great, but they're kind of just going to be in and around those conversations just because you picked them up for that spot. So you're going to be putting them in your lineup this week. Last guy, Tyrone Tracy. I think people might be going a little too overboard with the Devin Singletary narrative just off of 1 week where the game script was kind of gross and It was just hard to get into things. I think against the Bears, which haven't had a good run defense and are susceptible to some running back pass catching, I think I would put Tracy like up here. I feel decent about him
Also,
this
this
week
is
for whatever
like
reason. It feels like a good buy low spot, especially on Pick'em.
it also feels like it's just like I know it's not the beginning of the season, but it feels like the beginning of last season all over again, where it was like split load between Singletary and Tyrone, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
Tyrone just had like a breakout game, and it became increasingly Tyrone Tracy.
for sure. I think this is where we'll end off.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
this check out. We can
I
do
know,
some
and it's
reordering, but
I,
I think the
I
tiers are correct.
I like it this week too. It's a little bit like maybe not like your first thought of how you would order running backs for this week, so I think it looks good.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah.
We'll screenshot that, get that up on some socials. But as for now, we'll get rid of this shared screen. And that's going to do it. If you made it until now, drop a like, subscribe, download Prediction Strike, get involved with some pick 'em plays. We'll have some fun promos down the line. We gave you some of our favorite plays, so get involved with those and make yourself some money this weekend.
That part.
Yup. Thanks for watching. Peace out, y'all. Have a good
Peace.
weekend.